morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today we need to take a look at a bunch of new trainer cards. There's trainer cards coming in Black Bolt and White Flare. And frankly, you need to know about this stuff. These are ones you need to know about, but don't worry. That is where I come in. And I want to start off with one I did actually mention in a video yesterday, but I just want to mention it again now quickly before we get on to any others. It's energy coins. I love this card. Flip 2 coins. If both of them are heads, search your deck for one basic energy and attach it to one of your Pokemon. Now, this is not going to work all that often. In fact, the odds say that if you play 4 of these in your deck, as is the maximum you're allowed, one should work. One of these should get you an energy if you play 4 of them. Is that perfect? No! Miles away. Miles away. But it's universal energy acceleration on an item card. I don't think you can rely on this. You know, it takes something like electric generator. Well, that's not exactly hugely reliable, and that's just, you know, finding from the top of your deck in a deck that's going to play a bunch of energy. You look at the top 5 cards of your deck, you can accelerate 2. You can play a bunch of energy to improve your odds. If that doesn't always work, there's no way this is always going to work. But this could give you a really fun edge, and for that alone, I love it. How about one that's going to see a lot more play than that? How about Brave Bangle? Brave Bangle is a Pokemon tool card that I expect to see coming around basically everywhere. Because it's a tool, and if you attach it to a non-rule box Pokemon, you do 30 more to EXs. And we've pretty much agreed at this stage, we're all in agreement that doing 30 extra damage is good. Take Defiance Band, for instance. You've got to be behind on prizes to use it, but you do an extra 30 damage. And that sees a bunch of play, despite the fact you got to be behind on prizes. So it's really very simple. In non-EX decks, non-rule box decks, this is going to be a very good card. I expect it to see a bunch of play, but it's not going to be for everyone. There's just a lot of decks around right now that can't use this. You know, look at the best decks in the game right now. You're talking stuff like Dragapult, Raging Bolt. These are EX Pokemon. These are rule box Pokemon. They're not going to be able to use a card like this. But then again, maybe if you're having an extra 30 damage on all of your attacks, maybe that gives us a reason why we're going to play these single prize Pokemon a little bit more. Take something like Zoroark, for instance, from this set. Gets to copy one of your opponent's attacks, that's pretty gosh darn good. Now imagine you're copying that attack, but you're actually copying it more, because now you get to do an extra 30 damage on top of the damage you were otherwise going to be doing. You can't tell me that doesn't sound like an awful lot of fun. I like playing single prize decks. So I look at this and my immediate reaction is, yeah, okay. We can work with this. This is something that is going to be a card which we see a lot of. And it really depends on how the metagame goes. But if we have a bunch of relevant single prize decks, or indeed any relevant single prize decks, I do expect this to end up being a card that sees a bunch of play. This is one of the ones I am most looking out for from the new set. Keep an eye on this one. This one seems awesome. Basically, what I'm saying is, don't be a clown. Speaking of which, we've got Clown. There's a new supporter card, and the supporter card is literally just called Clown. And to be fair, you probably could have guessed that, because look at the artwork. Also, the T0 artwork on this Clown here makes me happy. And basically, both players shuffle their hand into their deck, and then you flip a coin. If heads, you get a new hand of 5, and your opponent gets a new hand of 3. If tails, you get a new hand of 3, and your opponent gets a new hand of 5. It's not one of those ones where both players flip. It is you flip, and one of you's getting 5 and the other one's getting 3. This is a really intriguing card to me, because you can play this early game and lose yourself the game. This could be the card where you play it on like turn 2, and that's it. That's the reason you just lost the game. You threw the game away. You're an idiot. Or this could be the thing that wins you the game. So you need to be a little bit careful how you use this. Let's say, for argument's sake, you've got a really good draw engine established. Maybe you got a bunch of Dracloak down, for instance. So you know you're going to be able to draw a bunch of cards if this goes wrong. You're not going to be punished as well. Certainly, I like this in a control deck, where you're going to be able to potentially control your opponent. So if they do end up getting 5 and you get 3, you're in a better position to make sure they can't take advantage of that. I really, really like this as a one-off. I love this as a one-off so that if you're desperate, you can play this. Or if you've got a good draw board set up, so you're going to be drawing a bunch of cards and your opponent doesn't, you can play this. So you can look for those opportunities where you're in a much better position than your opponent, and then you can drop this down and be like, deal with it, mate. If it doesn't work, yeah, you're going to look like a bit of a clown. But if it does work, it can absolutely win you games. I could absolutely be wrong about this. I think this is going to see more play than some people are expecting. Speaking of which, N's Plot. Yeah, there is a new N supporter card, and it's not N, because we don't really need N right now, because we've got I and O. What we've got is N's Plot, and this one's kind of interesting. Move up to 2 energy from your bench Pokemon to your active Pokemon. That's it. That's what it does. It's a double energy switch. No more, no less. Except it's not actually double energy switch. That's doing a bit of a disservice to energy switch. It's not quite as good as energy switch or double energy switch, because energy switch can move the energy from anywhere to anywhere. This specifically moves 2 from the bench to the active. But the reality is we have a bunch of cards right now that can get energy on the field. Take something like Blood Moon Ursaluna, that you pop on the bench, but you pop it down on the bench with an extra 2 energy. We can then use this to put both of those energies straight onto another Pokemon where they're needed a bit more. Or to stick in with fighting, you could use this for something like Sandy Shocks. Get a couple turns worth of energy on Sandy Shocks, and then move it straight over. Pokemon that accelerate to themselves, yeah. I mean, even something like Teal Mask Ogapon here. That accelerates to itself while you're drawing cards, so why not then have the option to move those 2 energy onto another Pokemon and then start attacking with them, as an example. This is another kind of card where I don't really expect it to be a 4 of in a whole bunch of decks. What I do think is, though, that when you've got these energy acceleration options, but they leave the energy on the Pokemon, this is awesome. And sure, you could use it, go back to Dragapult. Oh, my Dragapult's almost KO'd, so you switch it to the bench, move the 2 energy over, and start attacking with a new Dragapult. Force your opponent to either take out the bench Dragapult, which isn't a threat anymore, or ignore the heavily damaged one and go after the active, neither of which are ideal. So moving energy onto a new Pokemon to keep attacking, force your opponent into annoying options, yeah. Using this to move energy from Pokemon that accelerate only to themselves, yeah. This is another tech supporter that I expect to see popping up into a bunch of decks and seeing a bit of play. But there is one more supporter we need to have a look at here. And if you like mana, you're gonna like Fennel. It's a very straightforward card, very easy to translate. Heal 40 damage from each of your Pokemon. All of your Pokemon get healed by 40. Now, again, not to sound like a bit of a broken record, but this is another one where I can only imagine it really being played as a tech, as like a one-off here or there. Because pay attention when you're playing. How often do you have a board where this is actually going to work? Where you're going to get a lot of value, where multiple Pokemon are damaged, but 40 healing from them is going to be relevant. Probably not that often, honestly. Against spread decks, but there aren't really that many of them around right now. I mean, maybe you're worried about Frostlass, so this can be an option to heal the annoying damage coming down from Frostlass? Maybe? It's certainly not sounding amazing if I'm honest with you. But I can imagine some matchups where it's useful. But it's also worth noting while we're here that we've got the new Mushana, and Mushana, single energy, search your deck for any number of Fennel cards and put them into your hand. Also 50 damage plus sleep on the second attack. I'm not sure why we're using our attack for the turn on not even a basic Pokemon, so you got to evolve up, and then on at least turn 2, use your attack for the turn to go and search a bunch of supporter cards to heal? This is a weird one to me. I'm not entirely sure this attack makes sense to ever really use, but I do kind of like that you can use this, and I do think Mana is absolutely adorable, so yeah. Mana, if anybody's wondering, itself goes to sleep and heals 30. So it's self-sleep, but you heal 30 at the same time, and then in theory you evolve up into Mushana and the sleep is irrelevant anyway. Bit of a weird one, but I could see it seeing play as a bit of a tech. The Fennel, not the Mushana. And then we finish off with not a new card, a reprint of Tool Scrapper. Yeah, we needed Tool Scrapper. We really needed Tool Scrapper. This was, we've been crying out, you know, one of the big gaps in the game post-rotation was item-based tool removal, and now we have it. Tool Scrapper has been reprinted, and basically what Tool Scrapper does is just choose 2 Pokemon tools attached to Pokemon and discard them. Originally came around in Gen 5, so we have gone around full circle. And basically, when we hit the rotation, we lost Vacuum, which was the previous way we would get rid of tools. And I know we got rid of stadiums as well, but the tool removal was the big issue here. We needed a way to get rid of tools. We didn't have good tool removal. That is a very bad thing. So having this coming out here basically just fixes that gap that we had before. We have lots of good tools, but we just had no tool removal. We just didn't have, at least item-based tool removal. Now we do, and this is very nice. Certainly makes a lot of, your tool-based aspects now become a lot more awkward, shall we say, because they can be removed without giving, as much value as you were hoping for. So something like a sparkling crystal, for instance, going to be a bit more awkward to use than before. Although at least Sparkling Crystal you can attach and then immediately use, so you're going to get some value. Ones like Hero's Cape, you attach it and your opponent can just remove and hit you and it's done nothing. This is a big deal. It's good that we got it back. So there we go. Those are the new trainer cards you need to know about. And now it's over to you guys. Tell me what you think about all of these new trainer cards. Tell me what you think about these cards in general. Go nuts in the comment section, but be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @LeWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and a whole bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, join the Discord, and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.